Welcome back to the Duel Alliance Podcast with your host, Alicia Solomon, and myself, Megan Hines, where every week we talk the challenge, and we're back once again to talk episode 13 of the Challenge 39, Battle of the Champion, where the lines are drawn officially in the sand, and people are very giddy, and things are just now getting real for everybody.
Yeah, it's real and a feel out here, especially for the two people who have been running around the house thinking they run the house essentially, which they have, honestly, because they've had the numbers. But I do think that this episode was eye opening for them because it got real staticky real quick. Like some people started turning red. I seen hairlines move even further back. I don't know. It was a lot of panicking going on in in the house.
It was a short line. People were still in their feelings. First question, obviously, Olivia. We talked about her last week. She is still on in her feelings about Horacio. She was like, well, she was still like complaining about Horacio not helping her. But my question is she about to serve Horacio's name on a platter to Jay because she's been feeling type of way?
Well, I think that the obvious answer is yes, because she talked to Jay about that already. So I don't think that's anything new with Olivia. But I do think that with what happened this week and her being on a winning team and like having that opportunity finally, because Olivia hasn't done shit this whole time. So the fact that she came in this week and had an opportunity to have at least some power, it gave her a little bit more momentum for her to be okay with crapping on Horacio essentially and literally just leaving him to the wolves. Which I mean, I don't know. I really don't understand Olivia's plight in all of this. Like, and I hate that Jay keeps lying to her essentially. Well, Jay's a fool. Let me start there. But like he keeps lying to her essentially and like is gassing her like we don't care about Horacio, we only care about you. If and then he doubled down on the lie from last week because last week remember he said, "Oh, last season we were all rooting for you. Like if it wasn't for you, he wouldn't have made it that far." And then this week he came back and doubled down on the lie and said, if it wasn't for you the last 2 seasons, he wouldn't have been anything. And it's just like, okay, you got it. You got it.
Like they still outplaced you, so you were barely there. I'm like he, it was both of them, but Horacio did a lot of heavy lifting for that group. Okay, like let's stop the cap, Jay. You barely did nothing. You got your hands dirty with Laurel, and that only got you so far. Because no one was actually looking for Laurel except for you and your deranged partner. That's all you did. Don't worry about nobody else. Um, but Olivia, she was like obviously still complaining, and Maurice ended up telling Horacio that like yeah, your name is like still kind of floating, and he's like, well, I'm not talking to nobody, and I'm fine with that, and like I'm just going to focus on me and the people that I'm working with to get me to the end. Um, and he already knew that people were targeting him too, so he's like, I'm not about to go ahead and go to people like, oh, don't target me when he knows like he's a threat. He's shown and proven himself multiple times already within the last season and a half. I don't need to talk to nobody. If you want to be against me, be against me. And just do that.
Yeah, I think Horacio just has a mindset of just like, listen, I'm here to play the game. I want to win. He doesn't have a social game to play, essentially. Like, he doesn't care about that part of the game, which honestly I could respect because I feel like this cast, especially, has shown that's all they care about is the social game. And they think that's the only thing that they have to play. Where Horacio is kind of like, I want to win. So put me in challenges, put me in the arena, put me wherever, and I'm going to give myself the best opportunity to win. And that doesn't help when people clearly need their ass kissed in this house and to feel reassured. I'm not saying like feeling reassured is not valid, but I think that they go to an extent where they have to sit down and talk to people 24/7, which that doesn't necessarily mean you have a social game. That means you just like to chat. Like it's not the same thing. So I feel like Horacio, he has been on the short end of the stick here with dealing with these specific cast members with their quote unquote social game.
Yep, and especially with that big lines like being all friends and him essentially being at the outs because a lot of them have other people as their number ones rather than him. But we get into the daily challenge, what is called Getting Tanked, where in teams of four and one at a time, they'll have three members enter the water tank that's filled with dozens of floating letter tiles, while the fourth member is stationed at the top of the tank, and they have to be the runner. The three people who are in the tank have to search for the tiles that spell out Challenge Champion and give them to the runner that's on top so that they can slot the letters into a board to form the phrase. The first team to do this the fastest will win this daily and stay safe. The teams for this daily were Olivia, Ed, Brenna, and Corey, Horacio, Michelle, Athaf, and Colleen, Kylan, Mariah, Emmanuel, and Zara, and then Jay, Nerese, Raven, and James. A lot of all teams are very balanced. Granted, it's still 16 people in the game, but everybody's mainly balanced on each team.
It's still 16 people. Like I feel like every week it's some iteration of these people. So it's like, no, it's nothing new, to be honest.
Yeah. Yep. And so Kylie, Mariah, Zara, and Emmanuel go first. And Zara was feeling like Dory in the water. She was having a good time trying to figure out where these tiles were. And Kylan praised Emmanuel's agility for being the runner, getting the tiles and getting to the board to put them in. That team did pretty decent. They got able to get their phrase done in a good manner. Asaf, Michelle, Colleen, and Horacio went next, and obviously, everybody in this team, not named Horacio, was sabotaging Horacio because they're like not trying to find the letters, and this man is getting a little bit frustrated. He's like noticing, I'm like, I'm not getting nothing from y'all.
Which is like, it kind of sucks for Horacio for him to be the last to realize it. I feel like because he does not have a social game, he gets lost in the sauce. Like he thinks he's playing the game straight up and everyone's playing the game the same way. And he doesn't realize, like, nah, people really want to get you out. And to do that, they're going to sabotage their own selves and their own gameplay. And I hated that, like, they all were on the same team, especially with, you know, Colleen just being who she is. And then it was annoying to see them like sabotage in real time. Like sometimes I'm okay with people sabotaging. I think last season when we seen the sabotage with like Michaela and Tori and all that, how that happened, I was kind of like whatever. But this is just like, it sucks because we've been having Jay Michelle run the same game for the past, what is this now, 13 weeks. So it's like, it's like, come on now, what are we doing here? And then Horacio was just like, well, I'm trying. And he goes at the end and just says like, we just sucked. And it's like, no, they sucked. Like I would have been cursing people out. I feel like Horacio's just, he's really too nice hearted and he's so kind that he doesn't get the just due he deserves. Like I feel like I would just start cursing everybody out.
Yeah, because when he got pissed, I was like, you be pissed. And herself was like, oh, it's a good challenge to not know how to spell. Well, duh, because you're sabotaging this man. Like, you're being stupid for absolutely no reason. Like, just shut up. Whenever he talked this whole episode, I'm like, just shut up, Asaf. Just shut up. Like, you are the one that's floating and protected. Shut up. This man can beat you. But you just happen to be like, oh, I'm going to sabotage him because, I'm working with Jay and Michelle, and we don't want him to win. Well, you are going to be an option too. Like, that's what annoyed me even later on when Jay was like, oh, it's just me and Kylan. Babes, it's 5 men that are on a chopping block. Shut up.
these people are just slow. And yeah, especially with Asaf just being so deluded because he has Jay and Michelle. I feel like he just feels so empowered, and it's really just off of knowing two people, or at least one person, and then Michelle going along with it because she rides with Jay.
Yeah. And then James, Jay, Raven, and Nerese went, and Jay almost fell over when he was trying to put the puzzle pieces on the front of the board, and I had to laugh. If he fell over, I'd be like, okay, cool. Go ahead. I don't care.
Kind of want to see it actually. I would like to see it.
Cause I was like, he was like really over, and I'm like, oh, okay. But I really was like, okay, it doesn't matter. Then Corey, Ed, Olivia, and Brennan were last, and Ed was a runner, and he had a strategy. And he was really running back and forth, communicating really well with his team because that team was kind of a dark horse because we didn't know mostly exactly where people lied, but not what we did. But it's just like, hey, you don't know what they'll do if they had power.
I mean, I think the wild card in that scenario would just be Corey, because Corey has been itching to do something other than be laid up under Michelle after essentially his whole downfall this season. But I mean, Ed just blows with the win. And of course, Olivia hasn't won anything. She's been dying to do something. So I feel like she also was like trying to feel empowered. And then Berna, of course, we already know what Berna's gameplay is and what she's gonna do. So she really that's no different with Berna. But I think Corey and Olivia were the two main people that I was looking at on this team to see what they would pull if they did have the opportunity to win. And I would like to say that it was noted that these people spell champion with a W instead of an M. And Kylan did point that out to production, and they said that they didn't care. So the two teams that essentially went quote unquote the fastest spell champion with a W instead of an M. Like they turned the M upside down and just they turned the W upside down, excuse me, and made it into an M. And it's like you have an M in the tank, so why not use that? Like I just feel like clearly we know what the jig is on the show, but I like that's just a stupid rule. Like that does not spell champion. That spells chaw something. I don't know. But that don't spell that don't spell it. Like that's not it.
No, they just was like, oh, it looks like it's a champion. It's gonna be a champion. Like we're gonna leave it be. No, don't let it be. If you know it's supposed to be something, make it be that. Don't go ahead and switch things up and like, oh, it's also a champion. But we literally see that that M is not an M. We know how an M looks. We know what a W looks like. Be fair about it. But the quote unquote winning team was really quick with how they got it together. And both of the top two teams were separated by seconds, which were Jay, James, Raven, Nerese, Corey, Ed, Olivia, and Brenna. But Corey, Ed, Olivia, Brenna had the edge. And this got Ed his second win in a row, which is very funny to me as well.
Why? Because Ed is actually on the show.
Yeah. We haven't seen much of him this whole season, and then we see him as win two dailies out of nowhere.
I've always said Ed is a strong player. Like if he is given the opportunity to, he plays the middle of the pack, but I think he plays under what he can. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like Jay, excuse me, I feel like Ed can actually be like one of the stronger people in the house. He just does not have the social game to play for himself. Like he's a sheep essentially. He thinks with everyone else. So that kind of puts him in the back of the pack and makes him feel like he's underneath Jay or underneath some people in the house when he's really not. Like he really could be like one of the top men in the house.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just out of everybody, it's like, oh, this is a surprise. But good on him for getting two wins in a row, though. I will just give him that props. But the four of them have to nominate a guy for this week, and Kylan in the confessional said that he hoped that Olivia was going to keep him and Horacio safe. But Corey immediately pitched Horacio as the guy at the pick because he's like, oh, I don't want to see him in the final because he's the guy to beat. Olivia didn't give that much pushback because everybody was like, yeah, let's go Horacio. And it ended up being Horacio as the vote. When Ed said it, Kat was like, y'all are scared. Well, you're scared. Corey, you're scared. That's it. And I was like, go ahead. Fight for your number one, Kylan. Do that, okay?
Yeah, I feel like I appreciate Kylan's game this season. Like, at points, he kind of misses the mark with me, but I feel like in terms of him trying to shake the table at least and get some other people out of the house to shake up the monotony, like Colin's on to something here clearly, and especially with, of course, them going with Horacio. I didn't feel like Olivia would have even had a choice to not pick Horacio. Like, she's been shopping all fucking 2-3 weeks now. I want to get Horacio out. I don't want to run a final with Horacio, all this other stuff. So now that she has the opportunity and she finally wins something, her voice didn't really matter because majority would have overruled her. So that's why I feel like she didn't even try with any pushback. She was like, oh, okay, well, I've been trying to say Horacio's name anyway, so I'm just going to go with the group. And Corey's like, I'm not scared. Well, Corey actually made it be known. He's like, I don't want to run a final with Horacio. Like, I can respect it. Like, it's like, listen, if you want to run a final with him, that's your business. But me, on the other hand, if I'm trying to hold on to this little bitty power that I have here, and if I can make it through this, like, I don't want to see him. And it's true, you don't want to see him because he can smoke pretty much half the cast, if not like the whole damn cast. So I respect it, but Kylan stepping up and being like, nah, y'all scared, da-da-da-da. Like, Kylan is good for a little moment here and there where he's gonna call somebody out and really like call you on your bullshit. Like, nah, what is this? And I respect it.
Yeah, like I get Corey's reason why. Like, yeah, I don't want to. Like, yeah, I'm scared. I don't want to see that man in the final with me. I don't. I get it. But it's just funny. I just really enjoyed the moment that Kylan did give us. I was like, yo, you're scared. Let's admit it. And let's let it be. Um, and it was a big move for Corey to do that because they're not aligned. So if I'm not aligned with you and I know you're a threat, I'm gonna put you in as the vote and let it be like that. So I respect the move that Corey did make, because everybody else on his side were going to be aligned and like, okay, never open shot at somebody else to put them in. And the writing was wall. Sorry, the writing was on the wall for Kylan to be the house vote to go into the arena as well. So we already knew now, okay, now that they pit Horacio as their pick, the house with majority how it goes will pit in Kylan.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say about the vote though that Corey was standing on, yes, he's scared to go against Horacio, but I think it's also rooted in how the major alliance wants to vote. And because there has been cracks the past 2 weeks in just people figuring out that Jay and Michelle have been running this house the whole time with their numbers and what they want to do. And essentially, Kylan and Horacio are two of the stronger men in the house and can take out most of these people. Corey, like, he had kind of dual, you know, rooting interest in terms of what he wanted to do. Like, he moved with his alliance and then he also kind of moved for self. And I feel like if it wasn't Horacio, it would have been Kylan. So it's kind of like the same old with who they're going to vote for. And I think finally, I thought we were getting somewhere this week with people kind of turning the tides and saying, listen, enough is enough. Like, are we going to continue to let this happen with Jay Michelle running around picking people already and everything being predetermined, and or are we just gonna play our games? And of course, we had some people who thought about it. I think probably the best one I thought that was probably gonna flip was James. Like, we could talk about, we can't talk about Colleen, whatever. But like, I feel like Colleen, whatever. But I feel like James was like on the side of thinking about it. Like I feel Zara was convincing him, and obviously he has been playing with Mariah this whole time, and she's been saving him, and he has been going with the numbers. Like for all the shit that James has been talking about, oh, I want to make a move and I want to say this and say that and blah blah blah. He has been just staying under the radar with whatever Mariah wants to do. So I think it was like plausible, like, damn, we can probably get somewhere if Zara can convince him to vote for someone else. And mind you, like you said earlier, I feel like people were only going with Kylan and no one else was an option. And there were literally 5 other people that were an option. Like no one else's name came up except for Jay.
Yeah. And James going back to Mariah and telling her, and her by proxy telling Jane, I'm like, oh, Jay, I'm like, shut up. Let's not, no. Let's not. Like, we already knew, like, Kylan was, like, gonna be floating Jay's name around, because if not him, put in Jay. That's his number one op on the other side. So why not? And it's just, that's why I don't like the fact that they're all at least like buddy, and people are like running back and telling people like, oh, I'm not like I'm gonna not really follow you. I'm just gonna like notice information and then tell people that you are against. Like that's not helping their cases. Like sure, like your alliances. We're just about to get to the final. The alliances are done. We're almost there. Let's stop. Let's stop that. But before we get to more of that, at the club, Jay was still spilling crap about Horacio to Olivia. Olivia's like still in her feelings. And Nerese comes over and tries to defend Horacio's honor. And it ends up being a back and forth between Nerese and Jay. And I'm like, why are you spitting all this like negative shit about Horacio to Olivia when she's already feeling like crap? Like that's where I was like thrown off by Jay. I'm like, I get it, you're on the other side of him, but stop capping about last season and what Horacio isn't doing for Olivia this season.
I mean, that's already a no-brainer. I feel like Jay just talks out of his ass or his 3 hair caps that he has on his head. But what I will say is that when Nerese was talking, and mind you, Nerese was talking, like for as much crap as I've given Nerese in some of the things that she's done this season, I do feel like Nerese was talking to Jay, not yelling. And he all of a sudden felt threatened and was like, stop yelling, stop yelling. And it's just Jay is very passive aggressive, and I don't like that. I don't like people like that. I don't like people who try to play big dog and you all this and rah rah, and then all of a sudden, when somebody brings something to you that's not what you like to hear, you all of a sudden it stop yelling or I'm this and I'm that. It's just like you're not gonna do nothing. So why are you even talking all this shit? Like, shut up, bro. I just I can't respect it, and especially I like I've been saying this whole season he just needs to be knocked down a peg into who he actually is. Like, there's a reason why you've been leaving early the season that you have been. There's a reason why you haven't won anything because you're really not that. So, him pushing that to Nerese, I just didn't like that. Like, sir, she wasn't yelling at you. She was talking to you actually and trying to make sense into what you were saying because essentially you were just feeding Olivia nonsense about Horacio and basically trying to convince her that he hasn't been on her side. And like I've said before, Horacio does not need to speak for his presence to be known or for his feelings to be known. I feel like once he makes it kind of plain to you, like, hey, I'm riding with you, then that's it. Like Horacio doesn't want to say anything else. And then when Horacio pulled Olivia to the side, it kind of reconfirmed that. It was like, hey, girl, like, I mean, I've been riding with you since day one. I'm quiet. I don't say anything. I don't have anything to say, but I'm like rooting for you. Like every time he's been in power, he has not been putting Olivia in. He's been obviously trying to not put Olivia in. So the fact that Olivia just has come up with this whole elaborate scheme, like it kind of smells like she has been a little bit jealous of Nerese and his relationship. And I don't know. Like I really can't read what Olivia is trying to give with Horacio, but what I will say is that finally Horacio spoke to Olivia. Like, that's really all I got for that. Like, they finally spoke to each other, because it seemed like they have been missing each other in conversation this whole time.
Yeah, I'm just mad it had to be him to pull Olivia, but she's been the one mainly talking all this mess about him, talking greasy to other people, and she couldn't pull him, like not in the setting, and say, "Hey, let's like realign with one another, and see where we are with one another." She didn't do that at any point this season. It took this little fight argument that Jay and Reese had about Olivia and Horacio for him to pull her from away from that situation and be like, "Hey, let's have a chat. I'm still with you." It shouldn't have taken him to do that. It should have been her, since she's had the issue. And that's what I don't like about Olivia at this point. Because I'm like, if you keep saying all this stuff about this man, just go talk to him. Don't make him be the one to do it when he doesn't have any qualms. He's just there, I'm rooting for you. I got you.
Yeah.
Don't. Yeah. But after that, things kind of calmed down after that. Michelle was just like sitting there, like, just there. Like, I don't know. She was like, I don't know why we're in this. And like, Jay put himself in it. He did that. Your bestie put himself in it, and you by proxy. So just sit there, just be quiet. And then Kylan started to put emotions for a flip on Jay. And like we said, Zara pitched to James to try and get him to flip, but that didn't work. Since Rory got back to Jay, Jay was very overjoyed and very aggressive when talking to Kylan about it at the pool. And he's just like, "Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm hyped. Let's go. Let's play the game." Okay. What else do you want to do?
Absolutely nothing. Like, he doesn't want to play the game. He is gassed that somebody has done something else in the house, because he's been doing shit the whole time. He has been making the plays the whole time. So I feel like he's being, again, passive aggressive in somebody else trying to make a play. And I think that, one, I feel like Zara told James specifically not to say anything, and the first thing he does is really run back to Mariah, which is like, we saw that happen earlier this season with Kieran and Raven. But it's like, dude, like, just for your own best interest. I get Mariah's been holding him down, but I would have rather him not say anything. And obviously, I feel like Colleen also said something, because she was in the room when Mariah came back and told everyone, like, hey, they're kind of having a coup against Jay. So obviously, Colleen's been playing both sides. But when Jay got in Colleen's face and was like, "Yeah, so you've been putting my name out there," it's just like, okay, yeah. And I feel like Kylan was kind of stepping back a little bit. Like, he was trying to check the temperature with Jay to see like where he was trying to go with it. But I feel like Kylan was kind of like, okay, yeah, I have been. Like, you don't have to be all like hyped up about it, which he really didn't have to. But I wish that Kylan would have just like stood like 10 toes tall on it even stronger. It would have been like, yeah, I'm saying your name. You've been saying everyone else's name. I feel like Raven decided for herself finally to be like, listen, I've heard you say my name 3 different times on multiple occasions. I've been down. I've came back. I'm sick of it. What else is new here? Like, we need to play something else. And Jay was really scared. Another one. Like, it didn't even take a champ to come back to scare Jay. Like, he was scared because people were saying his name in the house. So this is why him and Michelle are besties, because at any given point in time, somebody says their name, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, like, what do I do? They start panicking. Nobody really cares about the two of these people except for the two of them, clearly. But like, they, I don't know what's going on. Like, they really get so scared because they haven't been this far in the game. So at any time somebody's saying their name, it's like, oh my God, like, I don't know what to do. And Jay running around, he's on the exercise thing. He's like, like a crackhead, essentially. Like, what the fuck is your problem, dude? No one even voted yet. Like, he really
No.
was moving like a crackhead. Like, you know what I'm talking about too. Cause like, why was you walking like that? You're just like, yeah, yeah, let's go, let's play the game. And it's like, no one's nominated anybody, no one said anything. Like, it's just an inkling. Like, your name is being thrown out there, and this is how you act. Really?
And you're supposed to be the top dog of this season at the core, and you are running around like a squirrel without a nut, just going crazy. You're not him. You're not him. It's just like, it's funny. Like, you're quivering at the fact that your name is up. Do you not want to go on Nation? Like, sure, you won barely anything. Like, you've been in power like probably a few times, and just for your own thing, but it doesn't stick because every time you try to put someone in, for the most part, they keep coming back, and you got to deal with it. So you haven't done anything that special this season for you to be like, I'm good. I'm top dog. I can get to the final and win, babes. If you are quivering at that thought, even the thought of going into elimination, you're not fit to be a champion of this show. And I forget if Javen won his season of Survivor, but the way that he's acting is hilarious.
Yeah, he's really shitting his hands, just like at the thought of people saying his name. And it was just honestly ridiculous. But I was hoping and praying that we did get somebody to flip, because they did have the numbers essentially. So Horacio, Colin, Zara, Raven, Colleen, and James were supposed to be voting essentially for Jay. And once we get into nominations and Horacio kicks it off and he votes for Jay, I'm like, okay, great. Zara votes for Jay, I'm like, okay, great. Raven votes for Jay, I'm like, okay, great. And then we get to the vote of Nerese, and I was just like, okay, what is she gonna do? And I was hoping that Nerese went with Jay, because I feel like Nerese, even though she's been in this Fantastic Four alliance and she's had this hard, difficult time about choosing whether between Colin or Jay, at the end of the day, when Colin tells you you're his number one, like, you have to believe him, because he really doesn't have the numbers to even have another number one woman in the house besides Nerese. Like, Nerese is in a situation where she has alliances with everyone around her, and it makes it difficult for her to choose. So, of course, by proxy, with her being next to Horacio, Colin is getting the benefit of that. But I was just hoping, like, listen, clearly, I wish Nerese was more offended how Mariah was when James got voted in. Like, when they won against Mariah and voted for James, and Mariah was super offended. I felt like Mariah was just gonna like flip shit upside down. I was hoping that Nerese would feel the same way. Obviously, she doesn't really care. Well, no, I won't say she doesn't care about Horacio like that, but I feel like she cares more about her relationships than anything else. But I was hoping that she would just flip and get offended. Like, bro, y'all said Horacio's name. The line is drawn in the sand. Let's just rip the band-aid off. Like, make a move at this point, because what are y'all going to continue to keep doing is voting for the same people and getting absolutely nowhere. Like, and it's just so irritating.
Yeah, I was hoping she would flip, but I knew that she was going to burn a vote. I just knew she was going to burn a vote because, like, she has been friends with Jay outside of the house for the past 5-6 years at this point, and she's she's also friends with Kylan, who she's recently met, and she has reports him. I'm not gonna burn a relationship because I feel like if she voted for Jay, Jay would have took that to heart and would have like cut her off. But because of a game move, because that's how him and Michelle move, you know what I'm saying. So for her game specifically, I knew she was gonna burn her vote to appease both sides. Like, I feel like at a different point she might just flip, but for her right at this point, she couldn't do it because as much mess as Jay is trying to talk right now, that man is scared and sensitive. So he would take that really to heart and not care about Nerys.
I, I mean, for me, I would have just did it and asked for an apology later on, and you know, do it now and then cry later. I don't know. Like it at some point somebody's gonna have to do a move. Like somebody's gonna have to play the game for themselves. We can't all win. Everybody can't go. Everybody can't win. It's only one winner. So let's just rip the band-aid off and stop being all friends and do what we got to do in this game. I just wish that she would have did that because that really would have shifted the power over, and I felt like that's much needed in the house because again, we've been getting the same old for the past 13 weeks.
Yep. And after her vote, the tide switched where Colleen was like, I'm gonna vote for Kylan because I'm at the bottom of this with Jay. I'm gonna vote for Kylan because I don't want to do nothing. Babes, I know I said I didn't want to go in on this lady today, but you just stand up. If you're gonna feel a type of way about a certain group of people and you want to see a shift, make the move. Don't let someone else's decision for their own gain affect how you vote. Because she was like, oh, Nerys messed it up, so I'm just going to vote for Kylan. You are at the bottom of Jay's list. That man don't care about you. At any given moment, he's going to say your name no matter what. And you still are playing both sides for a stupid ass reason. It's dumb.
I mean, I hope she gets where she wants to be, because obviously it's not gonna go anywhere with Colleen. Like Colleen just says one thing and does something else, and I'm sick of her because the past 3 to 4 weeks she's been saying the same thing. They've been playing the game. They've been playing this game. They've been playing this game, and you have an opportunity to just switch it up. Like you've been complaining behind the scenes, like we need to do this, we need to break this up, we need to do this. You have a prime opportunity to do so, and because Nerys kind of made her line in the sand known, like she can't choose. I mean, now all of a sudden you become pussy and just don't want to do your vote. Like, girl, just don't say anything at all then. Like, I feel like she just retreated and went back to not voting for Jay. And it's just like, all right, well, you're still at the bottom. So what next? Like, what fucking next? And you got Corey giving her stupid ass advice, like, oh, I feel like you should just play it cool until we get out of chaos and we get to conquest. Y'all are not making it far, bro. So what are you giving her this stupid advice? Like, both you and her are gonna be sitting at home watching. I'm not understanding. Like, what are y'all doing? What are we playing here?
They're not playing for a $300,000 something pot. They're playing just friends, and I hate it. Like y'all know y'all position in this alliance, this dumbass alliance, and y'all just like, oh no, we're gonna play it safe. That's not how you play the challenge, babes. I'm so sorry to tell you that. Like, you are at the bottom. If it was a guy's day, Jay's not picking you to be safe. He's picking Asaf. Then it's gonna be Ed. You are not safe, Corey. Like, stop playing it safe. And I know, like, you won this episode, cool. Your target was Horacio, but that's also playing for Jay's self interest as well. You're not playing your own individual game if you keep doing that as well, and it leans towards one side. And honestly, I feel like at one point Corey could probably be Jay in the final too. It's a long shot, but I feel like it could happen. It could. I'm not even making that face, but I feel like it's possible. Anything is possible.
Okay, Kevin Garnett, we go with that. Go with that. Anything is possible, I guess. I don't see it, but okay. Let's go with that.
Stranger things have happened, okay? Stranger things have happened on the challenge. You never know.
Okay.
Okay. So with the vote, Kylan got 7 votes of the majority. Yano got that 1 vote from Nerys, and it was only 4 votes for Jay. So we're gonna see Horacio and Kylan in the sand, waiting to see who comes in and they gotta compete against. And lo and behold, the champion that comes in, TJ gave him just a very simple intro. Like he has a very solid legacy. It's a 12-time veteran of the challenge, 5-time finalist. He won Cutthroat, and he's batting 500 with his elimination record. If you count All Stars, it's a little bit over 500. For us, we also know him to have lost that fight against the rail in the living quarters. Uh, welcome back to the show, Brad.
Am I supposed to clap? I don't know. I can insert clap here. Brad came back because Johnny Bananas is busy. I feel like it was just so random to see Brad at this point in juncture of the show, especially with the way that the champs have been coming back. We had Laurel, we had Cara return. I feel like they could have kind of just chucked Brad in when Darrell was coming around because it made a little bit more sense. Like Brad and Darrell, we've seen them consistently on All Stars now for the past 3 seasons, here and there on the main show, on World Champs and stuff like that. So I feel like they would have been best suited to be lumped together. But obviously, like I said, Johnny Bananas was a last minute cut. So they went to Brad. And Brad is solid. I don't have a problem with Brad, essentially. Like he's been okay on the All-Star shows. Like he's been Brad. I don't know what I feel like TJ gave a very good description of Brad, which is just basic and short. Like Brad.
Yeah, basic, short, and got a big ass beard. Also, notably, he had gotten in a fight with Marie over pizza.
Listen.
But
The
he
good old
pulls,
days.
yeah, good fights. Good, just random fights over random things. He ended up pulling Kylan's name out of the draw, and Horacio can go back to the group, but him and Kylan are playing What's Going Down, where they'll begin at the top of a tower with 10 balls at the bottom, and they have to slide planks out of the floor of each level so that the balls can drop to the bottom of the tower. Then have to get down to the tower to grab balls to pit back up into a chute. The first person to get all 10 balls in the chute in numerical order wins this nation. Kylan was a beast in this nation. Like he was flying, got it done, methodical, and just blowing it off the water.
Yeah, I mean, for all of sometimes what Kylan lacks, like when he actually locks in on a challenge, he, like Corey said, he analyzes it really well and kind of sees what's best for him to do. And I feel like he just locks in and gets it done. And from the rip, Kylan was flying down and getting up there like super super quickly, and I was like, all right, it's over. And it was Kylan's birthday. He was a little bit more extra motivated, I guess. Like he didn't want to go home at that time, and it just showed. Like Kylan really just beasted it through. I mean, Brad tried to pull something, like he decided to bring 2 balls up at a time instead of 1, which kind of held him back. And Brad started huffing and puffing after probably like 3 or 4. So it was really a no-brainer once you saw that Kylan was like at least 2 balls ahead of Brad. It was kind of, the writing was on the wall, like, all right, Kylan got this in the bag. And once Kylan got to the last one, he was like, this one's for you, Jay, and dropped it. I was like, listen, Colin is now coming back in the house once again. You've tried at least multiple different times to get him out, and he keeps coming back. He's beaten 2 champs at this point of the season. Like, I see why you want him out, but you may have to go down and try to do it yourself or get it done when y'all get out of chaos, because Kylan's not going home without a fight. And I can respect it. Like, we need that kind of gameplay to shake it up so that we don't get the loser of Jay to win. That's all we want. I don't want Jay to win.
Yeah, because like if Kylan lost, the numbers were done. Like everybody else would have fell back in line. If we would have numbers to get other people out, it would have been a dud. The season would have been a dud if they let Jay just skate. And I'm glad Kylan's back because he has shown improvement every single time, like you said. And I need some pushback against Jay. Now that the line has been drawn, it's time for action. And people need to go. Whether it is in chaos still, we have one more person coming next week. The big dog's coming next week. So somebody's going, I bet you money somebody's going home next week. And it's not going to be CT.
Well, I would hope not. Like listen, Brad is Brad, okay? If he lost, right? I was upset when Darrell lost. I was upset when Laurel lost. I was absolutely upset when Carl lost. So I don't want to see another champ come in and lose because this is not the point of this portion of the show. Like, this is not the point of it. The point of it is for these people to go home and for the champs to come in and show why they're champs. So if CT comes in here looking all snorted up like he did in that preview and he loses, CT, you need to stay on Traders and don't come back on the show. Don't piss me off. Don't piss me off, please. Okay, please don't piss me off, Tamburello. I need you to come in here and win something. And especially because I've seen that he had the chaos stick when he was coming in. So I already know what's going down. It's going to be Jay and CT. Listen.
We need a rematch. We need it. The streets need the rematch.
Nah, the streets need a body for real. Whatever Famous was saying on that power. So streets need a body. The streets need that body though. Like, let's talk about it. The streets need the body of Jay to be thrown down there when CT comes back because he's been bragging that he won against CT in that one elimination when CT was out of shape. Like, CT was just going through it personally, and he came back on the show and just was, giving whatever. So like, obviously Jay won that one, and then CT came back and beat him. But listen, CT, we need this. We need this. Yeah. Okay.
Somebody needs to get humbled expeditiously. So hopefully CT can do that next week. We are all rooting for you, CT. We are. With that, Brad went home empty-handed. Kylan's still in the game. Kept the pot good. He got his people together. And hopefully we see how things shake out next week with how that goes. But we're going to get into the tweets from this week. The first one, Horacio and Kylan have a full head of hair and a hairline. What do you have, Jay?
A cheap-ass Hawaiian shirt and a 2015 snapback that goes to the last one because your forehead is so big that you need to go all the way across.
Yeah.
And 3 pieces of hair that you're holding on to on this one side. I can't. I wish before he cut his hair, somebody would have snatched him ball. Just wrangled it up and just yanked it out.
Yeah. When the team that won didn't actually win the challenge, Mariah and Kylan's team is the only team to use the letter M, while the rest of the teams and both fastest teams use the W. What's Chopion? Do better checking puzzles.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, and I was honestly surprised, but I was not surprised, honestly. Let me just say that. I was surprised that they let it go, but then it's just like, it's production of the challenge. What do you expect?
This is the 5th sport of America, and this is what they let go.
It's not. Bill Simmons, it's not. It's not. I'm telling you, stripping is the 5th sport of America. Stand tall, ladies.
Oh, the next tweet. Olivia said Horacio has never fought for her. When have you ever needed to? I don't recall her name ever coming up this season thus far.
It really hasn't. And even if it did in a girl's day, he would shut it down quickly. Like when he won, his people who he said were non-negotiables were Nerys and Olivia. So he has said her name and protected her. I'm not sure where. Of course, she's not watching this as hindsight as 2020, but Olivia was just making things up.
Yep. Kylan joins Killer Cam from Vendettas in the very, very exclusive club of players to win 2 mercenary eliminations in one season. Very good company to be in.
That definitely is good company to be in. And shout out to Kylan again for completing the mission. Like he set out to do it and he's done it. So shout out to Kylan for real.
Yep. From Kylan himself. FYI, Nerys did not ruin our plan, nor were we surprised at the vote. James and Colleen are the two who bailed on the plan, and they told us before we went to vote, so we already knew. Because people are trying to blame Nerys for the plan failing. I'm like, no. It's those other two that were actually quote unquote part of that group that ruined it. Because somebody is laying better somebody on the other side, and the other one can't pick a plight.
I mean, I could see why people thought that Nerys ruined it just because the way it's edited, Nerys voted first. And so everyone went in and it looked one way. But obviously, when you're in the house and you have talked to people like 24/7, people already know what's going on. So I can see why people thought it was Nerys. But yeah, we already spoke about James telling Mariah and then Colleen just.
Anyways,
Silence is deafening, Colleen, yeah.
Speaking of, Colleen actively throwing the challenge in an attempt for Horacio to lose, but it's crying about playing Jay Michelle's game and being at the bottom. Make it make fucking sense. This girl is an idiot. This was the mole. And she's coming in this game and playing like an idiot. She has no friends in this game, but she's like navigating, floating. And that's working well for her, but not really.
She's playing the mole. Like, this is what you do when you play the mole. Like, I don't know if anyone's watched it. I watched that first season. It was great. This is what you do when you play the mole. You play the background. You act like you're in an alliance. You play that game until you don't have to play that game anymore. And then you also try to get people on the other side to make it seem like you're with them, but you're really not. So she is playing the mole. She's not playing the challenge. And that's probably why it's annoying to see, because it's like, wrong reality TV show, hon. This is not the one you play this kind of game with. And then you complain about it like as if you can't do anything about it. And it's like, you have the powers to change your circumstances, but you just don't choose to.
Yeah. And that's where we leave it. Colleen, girl, good riddance. We'll see how you fare, but honestly, this was a loser's episode with one winner.
It's been a loser season, to be honest. And I can't wait for more. Listen, next week we have CT coming, which is honestly going to be probably, I hope it's good. I mean, not gas it up and then it's some bullshit. Hey, CT, do me a favor, fam. If you come back on this show and shit the bed again, take your ass to House of Villains. Don't come back on this show. Go to Trader. Stay over there. I don't want to see you come back if you don't come back and put people to what they're supposed to be in their place. Okay, so thank you guys for listening, though. We will be back next week to discuss more of the challenge. If you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can at Duel Alliance Pod. You can follow Megan at Megs and Hines. You can follow myself at Ace_S5. And if you're listening, you can watch this on YouTube at Duel Alliance Podcast. See you guys next week. Bye.
See y'all. Have a great weekend. And happy MLK weekend as well.
Shout out to Megan Good.